Thanks, Dale. And joining us now with more is Frank Gaffney with the Center for Security Policy. What kind of global impact, Frank, does this attack have?
Well, the most immediate and obvious impact, of course, is the disruption of oil flows and the price of oil spiking, uncertainty about whether that will be resolved and back to the previous levels of production by the Saudis or not. And I think that the reality is that that kind of uncertainty is probably going to remain for some time to come. But there's a larger issue that I think is now getting properly attention that it hasn't had for altogether too long, and that is that the nature of the regime in Iran is one that cannot be tolerated, specifically the prospect that it might wield weapons of mass destruction, which is clearly its ambition. And that, I think, is now coming into sharp relief. I hope that the Europeans, for that matter, the Russians and Chinese, who have been indulging in this, again, crazy idea that there is going to be some basis for keeping the Iranians from realizing their nuclear ambition and that they will behave properly. That has to be set aside in the wake of this attack, especially if, as your reporting suggests, it's now clear that it was launched from Iranian territory itself, not through its proxies in Yemen.
Frank, if it is shown to be a fact that Iran is responsible for this attack, I mean, what do they have to gain? I mean, Saudi Arabia has a sizable army, right? I mean, shouldn't there be some fear on Iran's part at this point of a counterattack?
That's complicated, I think. On the one hand, I don't think they terribly fear the Saudis. They fear us, I think, but I believe that they're very carefully trying to figure out whether there will be real costs to them for these kinds of activities. There is reason to believe, based on how the president responded to their shooting down one of our drones and attacks on vessels in the Gulf and attacks on U.S. assets or friends in Iraq, for example, that they may be able to get away with even this kind of dramatic step. But the other part of this, which again adds to the complexity, as I'm sure your listeners know, is there is a theological conviction on the part of the regime in Iran that they will bring about the return of their Messiah, the 12th Imam, they call him, the Mahdi, if they can create conditions that look a lot like the apocalypse. If that's what they're about here, it may not be that they're simply trying to see what they can get away with. It may be that they're trying to precipitate a horrific regional, if not broader, conflict.
It certainly seems that's what they're up to. But fortunately, our president is taking a wait-and-see attitude, which I think is wise. Frank Gaffney, we always appreciate your insights. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for letting me talk to you about it.